Dum 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 dum. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Hope you enjoyed that new intro. New bubbles coming on just for those people who get the ad when they first go live. This is the Investing Bros, and it is Tuesday. What is the date? Oh, it's January 31st, the last show of January in the year of 2023. And do we got a doozy for you guys? A lot of things to look at. We're continuing to examine what is going to happen on Wednesday when Jerome Powell takes that podium. And we already know he's told us the 25 basis point hike. But what's he going to say after that? That's going to have a massive impact on Bitcoin. So today, we're going to be looking at the charts, and we're going to use a couple different things to look at some areas. If he comes out hawkish, what are we looking at to the downside to find support? If he comes out dovish, what are we looking to the top side so you can maybe look for a new place to take some profits? Make sure you stick around for that. But we got a lot of stories to cover today, so TA is going to be a little bit shorter. And we're going to cover a lot of headlines. And that's okay because, like I said, we are literally just hanging right now waiting on Jerome Powell to dictate what crypto and Bitcoin are going to do. So if you are excited for today's show and if you're loving this new background, and I don't know if you could tell, but my microphone switched sides so that when I'm looking at the screen to do TA, you hear me a little bit better. If you're excited about that, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you're with us every single day. We go live 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. So if that's something that is the perfect time slot for you, and you love crypto, and you love technical analysis, and you love having fun, you found the right channel. So go ahead and subscribe. I'm joined by my amazing co-host today, T-Shroom, with a little update to his set too. It's looking a little better there. How are you doing, T-Shroom?
I'm doing really, really great. Living the dream. Living the dream, Tim.
Yeah.
I have a shirt that says Living the Dream, but it's very 4th of July themed. So I did not wear it today, but that's how I'm feeling. Because when I saw that shirt and I drank my coffee, I became very, very excited and very energetic. Guys, let's look at the quote of the day. Today, it comes from Michael Scott. He said, "Do I need to be liked? Absolutely not. I like to be liked. I enjoy being liked. I have to be liked, but it's not like a compulsion need to be liked, like my need to be praised."
I couldn't say it any better myself.
Michael Scott gets it.
Michael Scott is the winner of all quotes. And just like him, we don't need to be liked. We like to be liked.
We like to be liked.
We even could go so far as to say we have to be liked, but it's not as compulsive as our need to be praised. So if you guys love The Office, go ahead and smash that like button. By the way, going back to T-Shroom set, go show yourself. Even though we didn't change the background yet, the background is coming. How do you guys like his new lighting? We changed up some lighting over there, so I feel like he stands out a little bit different today.
He
pops off the screen.
Got a little more pop.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know about
That's
them.
good.
I don't know if other people. I know we got a lot of feedback yesterday about my set. It turns out people like this a lot better than the Virginia Tech blanket. Matt C. went so far as to say that what I had before looked like a dungeon room and I was holding myself hostage. So that was hurtful. But
that is hurtful.
I like the new set, and you guys can't see it, but right in this, how can I get right there? Right that corner. You guys see the bottom? I kept a Virginia Tech in it. That's a Virginia Tech helmet, but for some reason YouTube cuts that off. So there's a lot of hatred towards Virginia Tech. But it's okay. You know, we will prevail. We're coming back. Yeah. T-Shroom, let's kind of transition back here. Before we jump in and do some TA here, we're also going to do some community shout outs in just a second. We got a lot of stuff happening in the news. And so before we get into, and we're going to have some more discussion in the second half hour, what are some just headlines that we want to make sure people are aware of? We're not going to go not too much into detail on them, but just some headlines that people, in case they haven't heard, can be updated on today.
Well, the big one, guys, in case you're new to crypto, in case you're new to investing in general, in case you're tuning in for the first time, the Federal Reserve is extremely instrumental in setting the tone for the markets. They are in control of the money supply, which is why Bitcoin is so important. So we can take the power of money supply out of the role of the government and put it into the hands of the people. But today is the eve of a very, very important decision that's going to be coming tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about that mostly today. That is the subject of our thumbnail. But some other headlines we'll be covering is the huge landmark, probably the biggest story in crypto right now, even bigger than the Djed going live, which is the SEC settles a security claim in the library case. Community calls it a big win for crypto. Library is not a security. That is what the courts have deemed. Very, very important stuff there. We will get to that in all the juicy details. But the Djed token is live. Stable
and people get mad at us. It's Djed. And some people do call it Djed. And technically speaking, if you look it up on Google, how to pronounce this word, it says the right pronunciation is Djed. But I have heard Charles Hoskinson call it Djed. I've heard the Cody team, when I was listening to a report, they called it Djed. So our apologies for the past of calling it Djed. We could just keep doing it just for the sake of doing it. But the correct pronunciation, from what I understand, is just Djed.
Yeah. So. And then also, Elon has made some comments about crypto coming back and underpinning Twitter, or you being able to pay for Twitter with crypto. So some big stuff, pretty much across the board, bullish headlines for crypto. And we'll get the biggest one of all tomorrow, depending on which way the wind's blowing for the Federal Reserve of the United States of America, these lands we hold dear, that we are brave for and that we defend.
Good. If you love long, drawn-out sentences from T. Shroom, go ahead and smash that four-fingered mitten, because you're in the right spot for some. Let's do a special shout-out to some of our special people. And I'm going to start with our Patreon/Discord members, the 3 special ones of the day. Eric Wallen. Speaking of Eric Wallen, he is, again, the artist. He is the one who found this AI system. You guys love that thumbnail of Jerome Powell with that hawk over his shoulder. That was Eric Wallen in our Discord who found that one for us, created it for us. I don't know the process of it.
Hold on. Yeah, because found is not the right word.
You know what? Tishan, why don't you tell us what Eric Wallen did to get that photo to us?
Midjourney is the AI that is used by Eric Wallen and myself to make very beautiful creations. Let me see. There's a couple. There's one that I've got right down here.
But he was the brain behind it.
Yes. This one I made the other day. This one's kind of funny. I'm using it as my profile picture for a lot of stuff now. Some people think it looks a little effeminate. There's one of Jerome Powell. So anyway, Midjourney is really, really cool. And you don't find stuff on there. You have to actually painstakingly type in with the certain words and certain symbols to be able to get the outcomes that you want.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
Eric Wallen is actually really, really good at it.
Well, that was a great explanation of what happened there. But shout out to Eric Wallen, one of our Patreon and Discord members. We also have Danny G, and Matt C, who more than likely will be joining us in the second half hour of the show, because he is from California, and it is a whopping 6:07 over there.
Wow.
So he is probably still in his slumber.
607 degrees, man.
607 degrees. Over there. It's great. But let's just shout out some of our first commenters here on YouTube. Our first comment was from Crypto JMP, saying, "I'm here and first." Shout out to him. Mr. J is also in chat. Elliot Locke, Crypto Mini Bike. Okay. Flizik, is that just a sound? Like I don't know what the correct pronunciation of that is. Flizik.
It's like physique.
Yeah. Let's see. Justin Eubanks, Brian D, Crypto JMP again. Let's see here. A couple more. Mr. Bitcoin. A lot of comments from the same people up here. Crypto Ben Franklin, Munchies 14, Adam Delgado, Max PP, Servando Estrada, and let's do one more. Oh, Steve Shrum. Daddy Shrum made it in.
Shrum.
Yes. Welcome. If I didn't say your name, that does not mean we don't love you. It just means it's time to continue and move on with the show. So with that said, before we jump on to some technical analysis, go ahead and go to my screen, T Shroom. And I know if you guys watched us from the very beginning, you got to see some bubbles. But I was going to look at some of the favorites. I have a list here. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to show you guys a list of just some of the ones that I like to track. So these are all of the ones. And this will tell you hourly chart, daily chart, weekly chart, monthly chart, yearly chart. The only one that's up on the year is Tron, interestingly. A lot of these other ones still down. Like we got some Polkadot still down 66%. Solana down 75%. That's not necessarily surprising. Solana. Algorand still down 74% on the year. So really interesting here. But this, we're looking at the day. Doge is the big mover of the day, up 7.8%. Maybe I might take a little glance glance at the chart after Bitcoin. I'm going to do just Bitcoin TA today. Again, we're going to get in and out of technical analysis because a lot of this is kind of still just hinging upon what happens tomorrow with Jerome Powell. So I'm not going to go crazy in detail, but I'm going to show you some things. We're going to look at a couple different things going on with the charts and give you some price targets potentially to be looking for, whether we end up going to the upside or whether we go to the downside. Let's go ahead and jump over to Bitcoin. Go back to my screen, T-Shroom. So the first thing I'm going to point out here, yesterday, I didn't think that I was talking about a level that we'd find support. I was more thinking I was talking about a decision point of if we make it down this far, watch out. If we cross below 22,500, I said yesterday, hey, we got a problem. Technically speaking, that would be the setting the lower low on this kind of tertiary bull trend. Well, guess what we decided to do? We decided to bounce right at that level. This was the resistance level of a bull pennant, and we bounced right at 22,500. I thought we were either going to close a little bit above it and continue the upside, or we were going to go below it. Sure enough, Bitcoin just went ahead and did exactly the middle thing, and that was bounce at that level of support. So as it stands right now, yes, there are some bearish things looking on the chart right now on Bitcoin. Yes, this could have been the beginning, technically speaking, of saying a new lower low and a lower high, but it didn't happen just yet. So we're continuing to watch. More than likely, in actuality, what this is we got close to another key decision point. We talked about 24,000. And now that it's a couple days away from FOMC, the volatility is going to come back. Watch us to continue to range probably between 22.5 and 24,000 until we hear from Jerome Powell. So we might just see this continue back and forth. I don't know if we're going to get back up all the way to 23. We were like literally $45 short of 24,000. I don't know if we're going to get back up to that point. Maybe, you know, looking at some other peaks we had like this one back here on the 27th of January, maybe get back up into the mid 23,000s. But that's what we're kind of looking at right now. Volatility coming before the big announcement from Jerome Powell. With that said, let's take a look at a couple different things and what we might expect on some levels. So I'm going to go pull up a new chart. I like to play with some different ones, get some lines out of the way. And I want to take a look at Fibonacci. We don't necessarily look at Fibonacci a whole heck of a lot. So let's spend a little bit of time here looking at Bitcoin Fibonacci. And I want to start here. I'm on the log chart in case you guys are going to follow along or you want to go back and maybe do some of this research for yourself. I'm on the log chart, and I'm starting off with the high that we had back in August. That's when we got up to that 25,258. And of course, I'm going to go down and match us to the bottom right here. So on the log chart, what I'm seeing right now is we got above that 0.786, and now it is being utilized as support. This is going to be really important. Watch if we were to fall, according to just using this peak right here, and I think that might be confusing to some people. I can go ahead and move this over just so it's not as confusing. Watch us potentially fall back down into a zone that was significant here just a couple of weeks ago, down around 21,100, give or take. This would be our golden pocket. If the bears can really gather more control, now we're talking about back to those levels around 19,797. That's getting closer to something that we talked about. We've been talking about for a while now, and other analysts are calling out specifically, and we'll look at this more when we get to fixed range volume profile. But let me go out to the daily chart here on this chart. Watch this zone right here. We've been talking about this, and I'll bring it back up. But this zone between 19,600 and 19,000 is a zone that there's a lot of people pulling for. Hey, we might be coming back to this level. Might be a good place to acquire more Bitcoin. Either way, Fibonacci is kind of getting close to agreeing with that, giving us a part right there at 19.7, give or take. If it gets really bad, now we're looking at the 0.382 down to 18.6. to 0.236 levels all the way down here, 17.4. If we go that low, I think there's a decent chance. I'm not going to say 100%. I think there's a decent chance we're at least matching. Like, if we drop below this level right here at 18.6, I think there's a decent chance we're at least coming back down to double bottom at 15,500, if not go a brand new low. But let's look to the upside, and I'm going to stretch this out too. Let's look to the upside. Some targets still staying above us, obviously getting back to where we were during this peak at 25.2, but even going back and going into some Fibonacci extension here. We got 27.9. Let's go ahead and just call that 28,000. We've been talking about 28,000 now for the last couple of shows, but the 1.214 level on Fibonacci extension is saying that's an interesting place to watch. And then the extension golden pocket going to be up over 30,000. Let's stretch this baby out. Let's go to some other peaks and see if it's going to confirm or deny some of these numbers. So right above us right here, golden pocket from this peak that we had back in May of 2022, golden pocket is going to be just to come back and match these August highs. If we were to use the extension on that one, the golden pocket up here for extension is going to put us up at 42. I think that's a little high for any type of movements anytime quickly, but keep your eyes there. The other one, some people have talked about 38,000. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but I've listened to some analysts talking about This run could just get up to 38,000. More than likely, this is what they're using right here. They're looking at Fibonacci extension, looking at the 1.214 and saying, hey, listen, if we can keep climbing this up, and I'm going to show you guys more here in a second when I pull up fixed range volume profile. In fact, you know what? Why don't I just go ahead and do that for you? What they're kind of looking at, and we'll cover this more in a second, is getting over this peak right here at 30,000. You guys can see another valley that we really don't see anything interesting happening until up here towards 38,000. So the combination of these two, that's why if you see some super bulls out there analyzing Bitcoin, calling for 38,000, more than likely they're looking at Fibonacci and they're looking at that volume profile. But let me put that down and let's go up and show a couple other things. Let's go up to the peak that we had back here this was the peak we had back in March of last year, where we thought that, hey, we were rallying to new all-time highs. Of course, we got faked out right there. We ended up crashing to the downside. According to that one, we're hitting right our heads on the 0.382 level. The pullback would take us down to 20,200 at the 0.236. So keep your eyes there. Again, a lot of things, a lot of levels below us that could stop us. I'm, again, still looking at that 19.6 level, but I'm just going to show you guys Fibonacci-wise. There's a key level on Fibonacci hanging out around 20,200, so keep your eyes there. Of course, right here, golden pocket, back up to 32,000, right in that range. We got the 0.5 sitting around 27,300, right below that $28,000 range. So a lot of stuff happening in there. And again, we're hitting our head on the 0.382. So that's what we're kind of looking at with Fibonacci. Again, I just wanted to show you some levels that it's looking at so that you can kind of choose. This is one of the tools when you're looking at breakouts and you're looking at, all right, we're going to kind of change the trend or we're going to kind of reverse. This really does help give you some points to begin looking at and then say, all right, is there confluence in the space that's going to approve this and say this is absolutely true? Or is this just a random line and I need to ignore it for now? That's what you kind of do with Fibonacci. Let's go ahead and move, and let's check out that fixed range volume profile that I just was discussing, but I want to go back to my main chart here and take a look at it from more of an extended view here. And we're going to kind of look at both bearish and bullish things here with a fixed range volume profile, see if we see any crossover whatsoever. So the first thing is when we're looking at the downside, I've talked about this before, but notice this zone. I've had this zone drawn for a while. It kind of marks the bottom towards this peak that we have, and then the top of it is right here in this valley. You guys know that I've been talking about this fixed range volume profile. The two most important things you're looking at is peaks and valleys. These are places where there's been strong stands or no stands, and they can both be very, very important for finding bottoms and tops during movements. This is why when we're looking at this right here, I told you guys 24,000. Why is it so important? Because look right there, it's the last peak before a lot and a very long valley all the way up until 28,400. So we ended up rejecting right there. We're going to hold off until Jerome Powell speaks. If he comes out and he says dovish things, I expect us to jump this, and it might not be very long, maybe 1 week, and we might be seeing $28,000 on our Bitcoin price. If he's super dovish and there's other things happening, maybe we even get over this peak right here at 30,300. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, so I'm not going to go ahead and predict that, but that's what I'm talking about. I just pointed out to you guys, but I'll say it again. If we can get above this level, if we can climb 24, get above this, and then we start climbing up towards 30,300, and we get over that, it's just a nice, easy road. The first level of real peak back is going to be 35. It's pretty much 36,000 or even 38, depending on what you use. I only went back this time. If I were to pull up this range right here, it's going to give us a little more volume. Yeah. So it's going to give us a little valley right here at 33, and then a nice little peak back up here at 38,600. Again, little far from my taste, but that's what I'm looking at. To the downside, let's continue to look at what's happening on the downside. We will have a little bit of support. Like I said, we just bounced right here. Notice what that 22,500 is. Not only was it the level of descending resistance, it also was the beginning of this little valley right here. So that's just two confirmations as to why that level was a good level to potentially watch for a reversal to happen. I've even seen some other people that I followed took some shorts and then took their profits right at that level. So it ended up playing out perfectly. The next things we're looking at, we have some peaks here at 21.2, another peak here at 20,700, another one here at 20,100, and again, that's the last one, 20,200. Then we're talking about this valley down here at 19.7, 19.6. If it gets bad, if Bitcoin starts to get a lot of bearish pressure in it, and we get below 19,100 or so, Watch this valley down here towards 18.4, 18.5. If we drop below this peak right here, you guys see this peak that we had back on the December 14th. If we lose that one, that's when I'm kind of saying, like, listen, it just looks at this point we are heading down to at least match lows. Technically, we will have support at 16,800, but I think the momentum is the bulls are gonna have lost so much momentum. It's gonna almost be this doomsday depressionary type of thing, and it will not be very hard for bears to get all the way back down and at least double bottom, if not create new lows. So that's what I'm looking at here with fixed range volume profile. I hope that helps you guys a whole lot. Let's take a look at one more thing. I want to bring up some SMAs because this is another thing that you potentially could be looking at. And something I want to point out before I go to the daily ones, because the daily chart will give us a couple of support levels to keep an eye on. I was noticing right here, I'm on the 6-hourly chart. I don't do the 6-hourly chart, TA, very often, but I know this is one of the levels, like if you sign up for TradingView, it's one of the default ones that it gives you, meaning some people like to use the 6-hourly chart a lot. I like using the daily, the weekly, the 4-hourly, the 1-hourly, but 6 hour is another one that a lot of other traders use. And something I'm noticing right now, you guys are going to see this right here. We're bouncing currently off of the 50 6-hour SMA. So this isn't the 50 daily SMA or anything. This is the 6-hour 50 SMA. And I was noticing how significant the 50 has been. Looking right here, I mean, just falling back, we haven't touched the 50 since all the way back here. Let's see, this is January 6th, but we use it as support. And just a week or so earlier, we were using it as resistance. We got above it. We use it as support right here, support right here. This 50 has been very, very important. This is the 56-hour SMA, has been very important. So watching us kind of use it right now as support is comforting. Again, if the hawkish narrative comes out, we're going to lose it. But watch the 56-hourly SMA be very crucial. Bullish, if we get bullish and dovish news from Jerome Powell as it continues to use it as support, and if we get hawkish news, watch it become resistance and be key levels to know when to take some profits, when to enter buys. That 50 is very important. Let's go out to the daily chart, though, take a quick look. I discussed this yesterday, but I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of it in case you missed yesterday's show. The support we have beneath us, this is, it's been the first time in a while we've been above all 4 of the daily moving averages on the SMAs. The 20 is we're probably, if we start to fall, going to meet it somewhere in the 22,000 region. So watch the 20 SMA is my first level. The other one is this red line. That's the 200 SMA. It's hovering right now, kind of flattening out around that 19,600. Just one more reason I think that level is one to watch. We had been below the 200 for so long, not even touching it ever since back here in that March, that rally back in March of 2022 that a lot of people thought we were going to new all-time highs. We ended up rejecting right at the 200. Now it has been turned into support. So it would be actually a pretty strong and bullish thing. I know some people don't want Bitcoin to fall back down, but if we came back down and found support on the 200 SMA, that could be huge for the beginnings of the next bull market. So that is one that I am watching as well. I think that's all I'm going to talk about today for technical analysis. I told you I'd take a quick look at XRP because it did have, or did I say XRP? I said, was it Dogecoin that had the big rally? Which one was big?
Yeah, Doge.
Doge. Okay. We'll take a look. We might look at XRP in a different one. Let's take a look at Doge. You guys know we're not necessarily massive Doge advocates, although I will say when it comes to Doge, I think Doge is going to be around. I think that it does have some silliness to it still. I still think that people kind of act like it's going to be a lot bigger than it is, but I respect it in the sense of it was the first meme coin. It is the number one of that kind, and I think memes are going to stay around. I think our culture and our society really loves memes, and I've heard rumors that Doge is working to develop more to it, but it was the big mover of today. I'm just trying to look to see if I see anything necessarily special. The first thing I kind of see just using chart vision is there was a form of a little bit of a descending level of resistance happening right here. And I think I'll see it even better if I go, nope, I won't. That gets even worse on that one. There's a little bit of a resistance level declining right there, and then you would want to draw this one. We got a little bit of a support zone starting to develop right here as well. So keep your eyes on that as we continue to climb up and see if that continues to be support or if it turns into resistance. Let's look at the oscillators, because obviously we've been looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano and others. They've had bearish RSI now for a while. Doge doesn't necessarily as much. There's some slight bearish divergence right there where those peaks climbed and these ones fell a little bit, but it looks like it's making a brand new push. We do have the Luxago oscillator coming in, flashing overbought at the moment, but again, this looks like it's still growing. So when I'm looking at this, I've learned more the more I've been using this indicator. If you guys use Luxago, or if you want to use Luxago, there's a link for it in the description down below. That's one way you can support our channel, and this is a phenomenal indicator. You kind of want to wait to see these red clouds and start to pull in overbought, or if these ones that come in green that are oversold. You don't want to just purchase on the way up. You want to see when it flattens out or when it starts declining, and that's your moment to say, all right, it's time to actually flip the direction. So right now, even though we're technically sitting on Dogecoin and being overbought, that red cloud is still growing. So I'm not necessarily running to the charts right now or running to an exchange to take profits over here on Dogecoin. Do you know, T-Shroom, did anything of significance happen that caused Doge to kind of explode this morning?
Yeah, we can go ahead and run this story really quickly.
Oh, yeah, Elon. Okay, yeah, let's do that.
So what happened? So Elon Musk wants Twitter payment system to accommodate crypto, and Doge spiked on the news. So it was in an interview, a video interview, or a vocal interview, I should say. He said Twitter is designing a system to permit payments through the social media platform, and although billionaire owner Elon Musk wants it first and foremost to be for fiat currencies, he wants the ability to add cryptocurrencies later, said the Financial Times reported on Monday. Dogecoin spiked 24 hours, as we have now seen on the charts. So that's the fundamental story there, guys, is Elon Musk opened his mouth about potentially allowing crypto payments on Twitter. Dogecoin is kind of his favorite coin, so to speak. And, that's the fundamental story. Cool.
Well, that is the technical analysis we have for you guys today. We're about to transition and go into more stories, and then we're going to be doing the market open on the stock market. But if you have not already, we got 110 people watching with 62 four-fingered mittens smashed. If you're new here, that's that like button that's right below what you're watching right now. Let's go ahead and smash that like button if you guys are enjoying this episode of Investing Bros. And I'm going to throw it back over to T-Shroom. We have a couple minutes for the open. What are some other stories? Let's talk about maybe some of the more minor ones, and then we'll get into the juicier ones later on in the show.
Okay. The minor ones would be that Europe is well positioned to withstand upcoming Russian oil product sanctions. Okay. So it's, this is like a bland piece of news, but it's important to know as an investor because it can affect global oil prices. So let's get through this quickly. The EU will impose a ban of imports of Russian diesel, jet fuel, and other oil products starting February 5th, while the G7 also plans to implement price caps on those products, though exact levels are still being hashed out. And distinguish this because the measures are on top of a similar EU embargo and the G7's $60 billion price cap on $60 per barrel price cap on Russian crude oil shipments that came in effect December 5th. So this is a different ban. And ultimately, price caps are only going to ironically enough, they're going to increase prices around the world, not in the EU. Why? Because there's less flow of supply. All of that supply is there's only really two buyers for that right now. And it's Russia and China. India and China that are buying the Russian oil. So that's a minor story. It's something to keep an eye on because it's going to affect oil markets. If it has an outsized effect, that could be very important. We're also getting an OPEC meeting either today or tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure. But that OPEC meeting is going to be pretty significant on oil prices as well. At least it could be. But they more than likely will just keep those oil prices where they are. So, or at least they will keep their current supply where it is. And OPEC is, mostly Saudi Arabia, but there's other countries in that bundle as well that kind of take their cue from Saudi Arabia, and they can easily determine the oil prices globally. And the market is not open yet, so we won't take a look at oil, but I will briefly go over some market data that came out today from Europe, and that's going to be France. Their inflation rate came in under forecast, which is good. That's year over year. And then let's see. Unemployment change, not super significant. Here we go. Euro area GDP quarter over quarter and year over year flash came out for Q4. And it looks like, so it was forecasted to be negative 0.1, came out 0.1. So that's bullish. That's good. It is down from previous, which is negative. But the fact that it came in hotter than forecast is good. And that's the Q over Q. The annual also beat forecast, but came in lower than previous. So you can make a bullish or bearish argument from this very easily. But overall, you'd have to say that it's probably going to shake out bullish in the long term, meaning the days and weeks to come, the price action there for stocks and bonds over in Europe. Names like Volkswagen and Adidas and many, many more. So that's going to be your kind of just like your minor stories. We've got a lot more stories to cover that are a lot more exciting, guys. This is a really, really big day for crypto. Sometimes it seems like there's lulls. There doesn't seem like it. There are lulls in the news when it comes to crypto. Today is not one of those days, and we're going to get to that in the second half of this video, of this stream. But before we do that, let's go ahead and check out our market open. We're going to start with energy, as we always do. Markets have about 10 seconds before they open, but by the time you're hearing me say that, they will already have been open, ironically enough. So we'll go ahead and we'll start on natural gas, as we always do. I'll go ahead and wait for there we go. All right, so now the market is open officially. I'll get back on the monthly chart here in a second, but let's see the monthly. So back on the daily chart, as you can see here, not looking good here for natural gas. It's coming in pretty modestly down though, down as the market is finally ticking in. It's down 1%. Let's take a look at oil, which is much more important. Continuing lower. That's really what we want to see, down 0.5%. So you can't wish for much better here. OPEC may have a role, and the headline that I read just a minute ago, the ban on Russian oil into the EU could also play a role in this price coming back up and making another run at $83 per barrel. So we shall see what happens there. Not exactly sure what's going to happen. There also is included in that ban is limitations on the flow of natural gas, and Russia has actually slowed their natural gas transfer to the EU as well, and that's a different pipeline from the Nord Stream 1. So let's go ahead and take a look at the indexes. That was energy. Let's take a look at the indexes. Opening green across the board, all three indexes. You've got the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones. The NASDAQ is leading the way here in the early minutes of the New York session. Let's take a look really quickly at the NASDAQ here, the chart. So it made a run at the 200-day moving average. And didn't really get much higher than that. But guys, I mean, how much more do you want from that? From its breaking that resistance, it was able to wick all the way up almost 4%. So pretty good for an index. It's hard to say that we could have asked for anything much more bullish than that. Let's take a look at how much it's up for the week. Let's see, January. I think it's going to be this candlestick. So on the year, it's up more than 12%. So almost 13% it wicked up to. It's currently up 10.3%. And that's the NASDAQ, guys, in a year where a recession was supposed to be hitting. And I believe you're up higher than that on the Dow Jones. This is much more zoomed in, guys. Sorry about that. But that's going to be your indexes. I'm not going to look at everything else because we've got a ton of news today to get through. Just breezing by crypto, you can see green across the board. Got green on the screen, if you know what I mean. Cardano doing really well. Litecoin also doing really well. Leading the way there, Litecoin, at least for this watch list. Laggers are going to be Tron, actually red, the only red name here. And Avalanche is just barely green here. You'll notice another red name here. This is Biddy. This is a reverse ETF. This is not a crypto, reverse ETF of the price of Bitcoin. And as you can see there, it is down pretty low, but getting into the second band of that Lux Algo reversal cloud. So something to watch there if you are a day trader and looking to gain exposure to the downside of the price of Bitcoin. Metals coming in red across the board, gold and silver coming in red, but gold just barely red. You may even see it in the next couple minutes turn green, but look at that wick. Wow, I have not been tracking gold that closely. That is a pretty big wick. They're showing that there could be some downside to come for gold. Let's take a look at the daily MACD. Yeah, red histograms accelerating there. Not a good look for gold. If you have been trading, it may be a time to take profits because it did get bought up throughout this range here, down to 1900. But I would say it may make another leg down to at least touch this mid cloud there for Lux Algo.
Cloud, yeah.
Yeah, so something to think about. Obviously gold is probably a asset that you're going to hold much more long term, but if you're trading gold, maybe a time to get out, take profits.
Yeah, and I think
what you got.
I think that what we're going to see happen here tomorrow when Jerome Powell speaks is some of these things are taking a little bit of a dip to start pricing in an expected hawkish outlook. So I think they still go a little further to downside, but I don't think people are I think some people are almost acting like if it comes out hawkish, the bottom's just going to drop out. And that's not necessarily true. I think the markets, what we're seeing happen right now is after having some great runs, they're beginning to price in some negativity. And it's going to keep going a little further. It hasn't done all the negativity it needs, but it's beginning to price that stuff in. And then what happens is, hey, what if he is dovish? What if Jerome Powell decides, you know what, let's not keep crushing the markets. Let's let the markets have its go with it. And he comes out dovish. It's just all this stuff, stock market, crypto, they're going to bounce back up and they're going to hit new short-term highs because it's going to be good. It's going to be opening for them. And we'll have to see what happens down the road with the recession. Here's the thing. I know there's also a lot of negativity, and we just go ahead and assume things are going to get really rough. We should all be rooting for the economy. Like, we all should be hoping the best and wanting and wishing that a recession does not officially come in the way that some people think it hasn't come just yet. I think that there's a little miniature one we had back in the fall, but right now things are looking good. What if things are able to actually kind of straighten up, get
soft
fixed?
Landing.
We get that soft landing that a lot of people wanted. I know that some people are sitting on the fence about that one right now, but Jerome Powell, he absolutely could come out tomorrow and be dovish. That's not what I'm expecting. I'm not going to make a bet on that. But there's a sliver of a chance there. And if that happens, we're going to see some prices on some of this stuff skyrocket. Not new all-time highs for the crypto world, unfortunately, not yet. But like I was saying, 30,000, 38,000 maybe even. If we get a dovish report from Jerome Powell, it's definitely doable. And then you're looking at some of these stocks. Yeah, like it's very doable for them to outdo like some peaks they had. Like NASDAQ had a peak back in August. It's very doable to get back up, if not above those peaks that we had.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what I will say is that even once we get past the FOMC tomorrow and the market starts to adjust, guys, it's going to be chaos the rest of the week in terms of volatility because you have the ECB and the Bank of England also issuing rate hikes or staying the same or lowering, whatever. We'll see rate decisions tomorrow on Thursday. So just because tomorrow we'll get the decision from the Fed doesn't mean that the volatility as coming out of central banks will go away. It will more than likely continue throughout the week. Looking at our mid cap, we did metals. Looking at our large mega cap tech companies, we're looking at Meta and Amazon leading the way. Guys, you haven't heard a lot about Amazon. You've heard a decent amount about Google, Apple, and Microsoft, and absolutely a ton about Tesla and some about Meta. But Amazon, in my opinion, is kind of the buy here. In my opinion, just because I think that it's kind of tracking with the rest of the market, but it is, in my opinion, a bit underbought. So let's see from the lows here. Let's see if I'm wrong. From the lows here, you're up 24.7% versus Tesla. From the lows, well, it's got a nice fat candle there. You're up 74%. To the wick. To the current close, you're up 63%. Okay, that's Tesla though. Let's look at Microsoft. From the wick down, you're up 13% to the wick to wick. So that's actually much less aggressive than Amazon. So that would be indicative that Microsoft has more room to run. But these are just local lows to local high, quick analyses of these mega cap tech stocks. Apple is currently under a buy and on the green trend tracer. You can see there, and it's up 18%. So I do stand corrected in terms of that quick analysis. Amazon is actually pretty well bought in the space, and Microsoft and Apple would actually be the ones, the laggers there to recover. Let's see, Google up 18% wick to wick, and currently at up 15% wick to wick. So actually, I would stand quite corrected. Amazon actually has done pretty darn well, up 26, 27% wick to wick. Okay, so that's going to be a quick little mega cap tech stock analysis as they continue to bounce back, and extremely high anticipation for not only the Fed outcome tomorrow, that Fed decision, but also what earnings are going to tell us about what the market is capable of based on Q4 outcomes on those earnings. Bond yields down, red across the board in all-time increments. The Dixie, however, staying green in the early minutes here, almost 10 minutes into the New York trading session. Staying green, and you now have on the daily candles 4 in a row green candles. We'll see if the Dixie stays green today. More than likely just getting a little bit of buying into the dollar, a little bit of strength into the dollar before the Fed rate hike and decision, and we'll see if it can stay up above 100 or if it's going to go ahead and break down below that huge psychological barrier. We shall see what happens. Cannabis, green across the board, pretty aggressive buying in cannabis, and then your mid-cap stocks pretty aggressively getting bought here, with Snowflake being the exception, and your oil producers down pretty markedly, with XOM, ExxonMobil leading the way lower. Let's get into these stories, guys. I am super excited to bring you this stuff. This is some intense bullish action today. Some pretty big alpha. We're going to start with the big one. It's hard to say which one is bigger than the other, but this is a pretty big one. This is a new era for stablecoins begins because Djed, or Djed, however you want to pronounce it, is live and on mainnet. So it's not live on the test. Well, it's live on both the testnet and the mainnet, I could assume. But the exciting part is that it's live on the mainnet, obviously. So let's get into a couple of details here. The Djed platform can be accessed on djed.xyz. Djed is also available on Miniswap, Wing Riders, and Muesli Swap, and we can expect it to be listed on other top platforms in the Cardano ecosystem. Furthermore, as recently announced, BitTrue will be the first exchange to add Djed and Shen. Shen being another coin in the ecosystem.
Shen is I was watching a video about this the other day. Shen is the token that helps to balance out Cardano's token when creating and making sure Djed stays pegged at $1. It was a really interesting video. It was talking about how they stay. They will fluctuate. At the moment, they're in case anyone hadn't watched this, Djed is going to be 400% collateralized, and it's pretty much going to say every single time it gets down to like, I think it's right below 300%. Things are going to happen that certain coins are going to be created or mint or burned to get it back up. And the same thing, it's never going to let it go over 800%. So every time it's 800%, certain coins will be burned to keep it in balance. But yeah, so Shen, in case anyone's wondering what that is, that's the coin working alongside ADA token to continue to mint and burn and mint and burn to keep Djed fixed at $1 and keep it over collateralized so that there's no concerns of it crashing and burning and you losing all of your money.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this comes at a time in only just a year ago, Luna was the stable coin that collapsed. And it's not, well, was it Terra or Luna that was the stable coin?
Terra.
I can never remember. And it was a big failure because there had been stable coins in the past that had failed. And so basically, there's a bad taste in the mouth for the crypto community when it comes to algorithmic stablecoins. And the Cardano community and Cardano staff and folks close to this story have made it clear that they want Djed to be identified as an over-collateralized stablecoin, not an algorithmic stablecoin. But unfortunately, that did not pass the scrutiny of Hong Kong, and Hong Kong will not tolerate algorithmic stablecoins in new regulation. You'd have to assume that this part of the world, where Terra Luna was kind of operating the most out of South Korea, you'd have to assume that they were hit pretty hard, and they don't want to have that again. And so I don't know how technically they're going to be able to enforce this, but they are not going to have any kind of algorithmic stablecoins. And guys, so I'll read here: stablecoins that derive their value based on arbitrage or algorithm will not be accepted. Stablecoin holders should be able to redeem the stablecoins into the reference fiat currency at par within a reasonable period. So they got their head around this. They're not going to tolerate it. Could that policy change in the future? Perhaps. But you got to, this comes at it. Djed goes live at a time where, algorithmic stablecoins just don't have a great name. But Cardano has an excellent name, and and Cody has a good name as well. And so, as far as the brands and the stability and the trust in these two projects, they're really taking a big swing here of launching an algorithmic stablecoin, which as of yet, there really hasn't been one that's done well. USDC, Tether, and Binance stablecoin have all, BUSD, have all been backed. They're not algorithmic. So it's really, really important to note that this is a very big play by Cardano in collaboration and partnership with Cody. And it's ultimately bullish for Cardano, but it's kind of, at the same time, it's like, leaves people scratching their heads like, why not just do a non-algorithmic stablecoin? Well, they think they can do it. And if anybody's going to be able to do it, it's going to be maybe Ethereum or Cardano. So we shall see how that all pans out. I'm guessing that Charles Hoskinson would not even let this be a consideration unless he felt extremely confident that it was going to go smoothly.
What? Djed having Djed at all?
Djed and just in general, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's why, like, so this is why I keep going back and forth on hearing different things. Is it technically classified? Is Djed classified as algorithmic?
Yes.
Because it's over collateralized in a way that other algorithmic coins have never been that way. So it's way safer, but if it still qualifies that way, I guess Hong Kong's not gonna be able to get it.
I understand that, and you understand that.
Yeah, but Hong Kong's gonna be
regulators, if the word algorithmic is in there, which it is, all of their branding up until about a week ago when they made that PR pivot to try and not convince people, I mean, to try and change the language to calling it an over collateralized stablecoin. That was it was called an algorithmic stablecoin. It's still in their marketing. It's still in a lot of their messaging because I mean, it is.
Another thing that's interesting is Hong Kong not wanting a algorithmic stablecoin, which, by the way, I understand the security reasons, but to pave way for a CBDC, because if you can have an algorithmic stablecoin, you're still going to need some sort of a stablecoin. Well, guess what? All the more reason to swoop in with a CBDC, and people are going to utilize that.
Right. And China has, I mean, Hong Kong, part of China, just in case you didn't know, China absolutely has the most developed CBDC. Some reports, some observers are saying that their CBDC is misunderstood. People are thinking that China has gone forward and they're like widely proliferating that their CBDC, the digital CYN, when in reality it's really just kind of in an experiment phase and it's not going to get widely proliferated. But it's hard to know, guys, because China, they keep everything so tight. You don't really know exactly what is going on behind those walls. Well, guys, there's even more exciting news than just what we've covered so far, which is the exciting algorithmic stablecoin release, or what they would want you to call the over-collateralized stablecoin release. And that is that the SEC settled on security claim in library case. Community calls it a big win for crypto. We previewed this. We teased it a little bit in the intro, but let's get into the details here, guys. So this is the man right here. This is attorney John Deaton, who did all the heavy lifting here. Well, not all of it. I'm sure he had a staff and many partners in this, but he's the one who's listed here in this article. He's the one who did this very, very significant thing for crypto. So let's get into it. Deaton persuaded the judge that LBC's secondary market transactions were not securities. The SEC requested an order that does not make a distinction between library, the company's management, and users in an effort to avoid providing clarification for LBC. The judge turned to Deaton and told him, and this is interesting if they include this like this, he told Deaton, amicus, I'm going to make it clear that my order does not apply to secondary market sales. And I'm sure that was just the most hair-raising, chilling, optimistic, bullish moment felt in a court case related to crypto in quite some time. And this can work in favor for the long-running Ripple lawsuit. And that's where we can kind of open up the conversation on this, guys, because this is huge for crypto. Like, this is why I'm kind of struggling. Like, what's a bigger story? Is it the Djed release, or is it this? Because this will be very, very big for XRP, but it's also going to be big for crypto in general, because there's a lot of coins out there that the SEC could have easily opened up initial coin offering cases against, but they chose XRP, and it has been the whipping boy for the crypto industry at a larger scale. What you can see, though, I wanted to point this out for you guys, is the spike in price for Library token. So this is the token associated with Library, and as you can see here, up 18% on CoinMarketCap here. And what you'll also notice is that because you've probably never heard of this before, you've probably never heard of Library, it's because it's ranked 782, but it is one of the coins that the SEC decided to go after. And here is a little bit of a clue why they went after such a small altcoin. So take a look at this. Their original tweet: "This is the biggest call we made wrong. We thought that by being honest and open, the SEC would go after us last. But they actually went after us first because we made it easy. We cannot emphasize enough how important it is to obscure your activity from U.S. regulatory agencies." So that was their tweet back in January 23rd. And then just an hour ago, they said, "The SEC read this tweet in court yesterday. We stand by it 100%. We have not met a single honest or fair actor in the SEC. We have met numerous liars and psychopaths." Pretty strong language there.
Wow.
Hide, and this is their advice to people in crypto: hide absolutely everything you can from them legally, and never cooperate or talk to the SEC. Guys, that's pretty strong words from someone coming off of a victory there. I mean, you can tell that that message has been in a pressure cooker waiting to come out until they get an actual outcome here, and they're feeling confident enough to say something like that. So pretty exciting stuff. That is from the official Twitter account here of Library, which again is a super small coin. They do a very specific thing in the crypto community, in the crypto niche. But ultimately, a very significant coin, as we've seen today, because it has huge ramifications on that SEC lawsuit that it has been dragged down, and the price, of course, handcuffed to that whole situation. So great news. Great news for crypto.
Yeah, we'll see how that develops. Because the other thing about it, here's like the double-edged sword of the SEC and the crypto altcoin regulation debate. If SEC does end up regulating a lot of altcoins, if it gets a really easy path to deem altcoins securities, it will hurt a lot of very legitimate cryptos, a lot of legitimate altcoins. It'll cripple them, but it'll also wipe out a lot of the scam ones. With them not and losing regulation and not being able to regulate, it's going to keep some of our favorite altcoins from heavy SEC regulation, but it's going to allow some scams to come through. All the more reason. Again, I think we still root. We're still rooting for Ripple and XRP to beat the SEC in this, and to set a precedent that it makes it very hard for the Securities Exchange Commission to be able to regulate cryptocurrency. But we need to continue to educate ourselves and others on what to look for very harmful altcoins and cryptocurrencies, because we still live in a culture. We still live in a culture that, yes, Bitcoin is big, but instead of like those of us watching this show and those of us who watch a lot of the cryptos and we do our homework, when we think of the big coins, we're thinking Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, XRP. We're thinking, AVAX. We're thinking Gala. I'll even go and say, even though I'm not fond of it, the people that were fond of it, people were thinking Solana and stuff like that. If you just did like a publicity on cryptocurrency, it's like Bitcoin, Shiba Inu, SafeMoon, this scam NFT. Like the still most popular parts of cryptocurrencies are some of these coins that still have no use case value. People and the attraction to them was buy this and get rich quick. Well, guess what? If a lot of altcoins can stay outside of the SEC, that will continue to be a marketing campaign for some of these smaller cap scam coins. Hey, buy this coin and watch it 10,000x. And some of them actually might, but it'll do it in a way to steal money from the ignorant, uneducated retail investor. And that's why it's so important that, again, I want this to stay as unregulated as possible, but that means the weight is on our shoulders, the retail investors, to help other retail investors not fall for these stupid scams. Because guess what? If that continues, if we do get through this round of regulation and we stay light, but then there's even more scamming going on in the future, the second round of regulation will not be pretty, and we don't want that. So it's very, very important to, again, continue to monitor this and continue to educate yourself and educate others on the harms of some of these smaller cryptos.
Yeah. I mean, guys, the future that we all want in crypto is not going to be necessarily easier for the individual, right? You have to understand your security, your own security, and CryptoSec Guy talks about this a lot. You have to understand your own security when it comes to transfers. And there's systems that are coming out. There's new products that are coming out, like Presend and like others that are basically an improvement. It's kind of a Gen 2 on what MetaMask has done, what Trust Wallet, what a lot of these intermediary payment systems have built up to be able to help the consumer market, and it will get better. But initially, and definitely the world we live in right now, I've done this. I've accidentally sent Stellar Lumens specifically on the wrong rails to a different wallet, and it was just gone. Now, luckily, it was only like $50-$60 or something like that. It was sucked at the moment, but that's not a huge no sweat off my back, right? Mm-hmm. So, but that can happen, and it does happen to people at a much larger scale with real money, and that's scary. That's very scary. And so, while we want Bitcoin, we want crypto to emerge and ultimately compete with the USD in market share much more significantly than it already is, we have to realize that it's going to come with greater responsibility. Mm-hmm. And so we have to just continue to take that into consideration as we cheer on these projects, as we cheer on these SEC cases and these victories now. It's a big day. We have to realize that with added rights and with added expanded freedoms, there's still going to be expanded responsibilities. And in this case, those responsibilities are going to fall on you. Usually those responsibilities fall on government workers to ensure XYZ laws are followed, right? But in this case, with money, with the expanded offering of private money, the responsibility is going to fall on you. Yeah, it's going to fall on exchanges to some extent too. It's going to fall on operators in the space. Ledger, has responsibility. It has to perform what it says its ledgers do, right? But at the end of the day, it's a lot more going to fall on you. If your money gets lost in Bank of America, guess what? There's FDIC. You can file for FDIC. You can get that money back up to $250,000. That doesn't exist in crypto. It's a huge difference. And what that means, what that ultimately boils down to, is not your keys, not your crypto, guys. Mm-hmm. You have to keep things safe, and you have to understand that sending funds from one wallet to another is a risk. You have to understand that how to do it correctly every single time. So let's see what else. So what else is there kind of on your mind, Tim, when it comes to all this?
When it comes to like just the SEC and the XRP case, yeah. I'm still waiting. I mean,
do you think XRP wins?
We keep going back and forth. Like I feel like it keeps going back and forth who looks like they're leading. Mm-hmm. And so, back here to end December, there was a lot of reports coming out that things weren't looking as good for Ripple. And now it's moving back into, well, things look like it's going very, very well. And then you hear, reports of a lot of chaos going inside the SEC building itself. And is the SEC going to implode from the inside out? So this is going to just continue to be an ongoing. I know a lot of people hope that 2022 is going to be the year of resolution. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. We're 1 month in. Hopefully 2023 is the year of resolution. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of reasons to suspect that the case will come to a close this year. The question is when, and I don't have an answer for that. And conclusion, I think if you're going to say right now, Tim, make a guess, put down what you would think is going to happen. I'm going to guess bullish. I think that XRP is going to win. I think Ripple's going to win. But who knows? There's a lot more that could come out with this story. Now, remember, the SEC is a government entity. They got some hidden advantages that other companies don't get. Very interesting story to continue to follow. So that's my thoughts kind of on that one.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's see. Just continue down, just checking back in on crypto prices. I was curious to see how XRP was going to respond.
I saw that in
2%.
chat. The XRP did have a smaller rally. Other people comment, going back a story we were just talking about with Cardano, a lot of people are asking, why didn't Cardano rally on the launch of Djed? Well, this is a thing, in case you guys are newer to crypto, or maybe you haven't heard this in a while, that there's a very real concept when it comes to investing and trading this stuff, is you buy the rumor, you sell the news, or you buy the news, sell the release. In this case, we got that news here 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that Djed was getting really close. Then last week it confirmed, hey, we're 1 week away. A lot of people bought. And now that it's actually happening, nothing bullish is necessarily the fact that we're not dropping is actually a good sign, because a lot of times what you see is when something's been being built up for a while, people start buying and hyping up, and then there's this retail expectation. Oh, well, today's the day it launches. Well, there must be a bunch of new users and blah, 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 and Cardano's going to explode. No. That the rally from the fundamental update is coming down the road. This is what we're talking about, a news rally. And traditionally, when news finally happens, whatever that detail was, there's usually a little bit of a cool off. There's usually a little bit of red. So maybe even, there's a lot of things happening, cooling off, that's happening before this week. This is a big week for the entire crypto market. And we've been talking about it the whole time. This is the title of the video. I think some of you guys came in with the old title. We had a little bit of a glitch there. But the title of this video is, what does the hawkish FOMC mean for Bitcoin price? And then, of course, it's going on to crypto. Hawkish, we're looking at down to the downside, but I think we've seen the beginning of that cool-off happen over the last day or so. The question, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow's show, I can just go ahead and tell you this right now. Tomorrow's show might be what a dovish FOMC meeting means for Bitcoin price, and we'll explore more of that, because there's been all this negativity thrown around. Well, guess what? Sometimes Jerome Powell has a way of doing the exact opposite of what people expect. And I'm not predicting it. I still, if you told me, Tim, what are the odds of a hawkish versus dovish response from Jerome Powell? I'm probably sitting at like 80% saying he's going to be hawkish. Everything makes sense on paper for him to come out tomorrow after that 25 basis points and be very hawkish and say, well, the economy is not where we want it to be. Inflation's not going anywhere. So neither is our interest rate hikes. We are not pivoting anytime soon. And the market's going to go down. But there's a 20% chance that he comes out and says, you know what, we're loving what we're seeing with inflation, food prices. I know there's some things going on there, but we're expecting the housing market to actually descend here. We're expecting oil prices to continue to get better. And guess what? Two of the biggest factors, I know food is the third one, but two of the biggest factors of inflation is oil prices and housing. There's actually reasonable expectation, if especially things can, with what's going on with Russia, if things can start cooling off there, there's a good chance oil prices could drop, which would lower inflation, which would allow more dovish narratives from the Fed. So is that likely? No, I'm not going to say it's likely, but I do think that there's a chance it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll take a look really quickly, because the CME future Fed tool has not changed. And here's the reason why I think the decision is almost 100% in my mind going to be 25 basis points. And that's because it has been predicted with a high level of certainty since a month ago, since the 30th of December. The Fed will do this. They have folks come out and speak, other governors come out and speak on behalf of the Fed and what they're thinking all the time. They would have come out with some hawkish tones to try and dissuade the market from thinking 99% likelihood that they're going to do a 25 basis point hike. So I think we get the 25 basis point hike. If we don't, everybody's going to be super pissed at the Fed, because they have not put that in their messaging that they weren't going to hike or that they were going to hike 50 basis. So I think, but when it comes to the rhetoric of Jerome, I'm a lot more uncertain. I don't know. It could go either way. But let's look really quickly at our Patreon, guys. If you love this kind of conversation, we have this kind of conversation all day in the Discord, and you can get access to that here through the Patreon with these 3 tiers memberships on the Patreon. We also have exclusive content that lives on Patreon that you can watch. We have little podcast conversations with some of our friends and other influencers, and that's really, really fun. I actually had a conversation with the founder of Midjourney the other day, and that's there in right there on our page. So you can go check that out. You can go listen to it. Yeah. And you can check that out. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, there it is. So AI meets economics. Midjourney founder David Holt. So you can go check that out. It's really, really cool. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, is that Army Piper is going to be on the show tomorrow. Yes. Yep. So he's going to be on there. He's going to help us preview the Fed even more than we have already previewed it. We're going to get down even deeper into it. And no, we're going to learn a lot about what's going on over there at Chart Prime and see kind of what has been on the mind of Army Piper. He has a great perspective on trading. He has been using his own set of indicators for a while now, and he's got a really cool, unique perspective. So that's going to be tomorrow. Absolutely tune in for that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And by the way, when it comes to that Patreon stuff, we have a big announcement coming over the next couple of days. We're going to be posting something in Patreon to let the Patreon members know first. But as far as how that Patreon is responsible in Discord, big announcement coming for all of you guys. So make sure you stay tuned the rest of the week so you don't miss that. If you are in the Patreon, in the Discord already, stay tuned. We're going to be posting and letting you guys know what's happening first. That's going to be the kind of thing. We're always, this is a community here on YouTube. We're going to kind of announce stuff first in the Patreon and Discord, and then we're going to announce it for you guys on YouTube. So if you guys want to be a part of that, again, T-Shroom just showed you, link down below. Go sign up today. Some big things going to be coming in over there, even though they're already there. That's all we have for you guys in this episode, but go ahead on your way out. If you have not already, smash that like button or that four-fingered mitten, and we will see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, as we continue to prepare for this Fed Day. You guys have a great day.